We can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Michael Bachrach here. So.
Yeah, hi.
And we have panelists, Brian DeRuers, Chris Metzger, and Nick Shamus.
Yeah, fine. Hello to everybody. And I think we can change now to this current case here. So this is, next, it's a re-occlusion of the left distal SFA, which has been stented quite some years ago, 2014, and he experienced some re-occlusions, and now he suffers from severe claudication. Next shows you, that was actually, oops, next please, yeah. Shows you that stent. We don't know exactly the stent brand. It was done in another hospital. And you can see it's completely torn apart. I assume that during the implantation the stent was very much elongated, and therefore the recoil forces over the time let this stent disrupt in the mid portion. You can see there's some areas where there is no stent anymore left. Okay, next shows you our intention. We are crossover here actually with an 8 French sheath, and we want to use here laser atherectomy to do the In-Stent treatment. Treat with drug-coated balloons, but we are also prepared that if it looks very terrible due to these stent fragments here, to take a stent in, potentially also a covered stent if we have some old loose material which may embolize. Yeah, let's switch to the angio here. The crossover approach, quite steep. Aortic bifurcation, nevertheless, was not so difficult here to go crossover. And here, once again, this is the 8 French 55 centimeter sheath here, looking into the mid portion of the SFA. And here, once again, the stents, the complete stent fractures here. And then right distal to the stent, the artery is open again. Outflow is okay. Yeah, so Johannes Schuster from our department already went through with the wire, with the V18. First wire went to intercollaterals, but at the end it was obviously not so, as he said, not so difficult to get the wire through, so not that organized. And yeah, now the big question is it always through the stent, the old stent, or is it sometimes going around struts? Therefore, he pushed down a balloon, which was easy to do, so therefore we were quite confident to take here the laser down. And we actually started to laser already, because this is, of course, if you show it, not so exciting. And sorry, I just switched to the laser. And also loud. So we actually took here a 2.5 millimeter laser, and with a little bit of higher energy and repetition, we took it through here very slowly. And we never really had a problem, we thought, with stent struts. So I'm not sure what kind of atherectomy you would have taken, but I think a laser, I think, is a good choice here for this. So you can see there was no problem here at all. Yeah, sometimes it jumped a little bit. And also distally, it went again very nicely into that stent fragment here. Only at the very distal end we had problems. Here the laser didn't want to proceed through the last segment. So there we thought the wire might have been here, across some struts. So we took the wire back in and did just some, tried to take the laser through without wire, didn't work. So we pre-dilated here a little bit, and that proved that the wire is obviously correct. And then we lasered here once again. Again, it jumped a little bit, but at the end was okay. Yeah, so we did 2 passes, and this is the angio, which I think is not so bad. Distal stent, yeah, there's still some material left, especially that distal area where we had problems. The mid portion actually looks a little strange here, as if there would be a perforation, but we never had problems. So I don't know, maybe the stent struts also created some kind of false aneurysm. That could be the case, which we cannot see by angio, but might see by ultrasound.
So Andre, this is Chris.
What do you think?
Metzger.
Could be.
I like the laser strategy here, and it's probably less distal embolization. As you were showing those pictures of the laser, it really looked like there were 3 or 4 different transverse stent fractures. Was that your impression as well? And one of them looks like there was a pretty big gap that the bevel of the end of one stent and the bevel of the stent, 3 centimeters down, looked like it was the same, oblique cut in those stents. So I have the impression that there's 3 or 4 complete transverse stent fractures. And so with that possible extravasation and a lot of transverse fractures, is it worth doing DCB still, or do you change your strategy a little and go straight to your covered stent option? What do you think?
Yeah, that's a good question. And
right.
Well, we didn't do the decision before we went through with the laser, and we thought to postpone the decision to that point. And now seeing this, in fact, as well, I mean, we have prepared to take a covered stent in. So I personally would take now the drug-coated balloon, maybe proximal, where the stent seems to be a little bit more preserved, although actually we cannot say this. But distal, in fact, now seeing this angio, I'm a little bit really afraid that we have some kind of false aneurysm due to stent struts, some kind of bleeding. We also maybe have some loose material. And in fact, now we just waited for these few minutes while we talked, and we have here a near re-occlusion. So therefore, maybe also bad to take a covered stent in there. What do you think?
I think with that many pieces of shrapnel in the leg and all of those features, I might go with a covered stent, one long covered stent to cover all of them, but that's one opinion.
Yeah, Chris, I agree with that. I guess you have class 4 fractures here, and just DCB alone may not do the trick. I think covered stent probably would be the good option.
So why not use just a regular non-covered stent in this setting? You get a reasonable lumen, you'll cover those areas that are, cost-effective from the standpoint, and you also may preserve a few of the collaterals that you have.
If I was going to use a bare metal stent, it would be a Sapera stent, and then but then you'd have to prep it even more, and you've already got a little bit of an aneurysm perforation. I think you could do it, but my choices would either be a Sapera stent, if I was going to use a stent with that many pieces of shrapnel already seen, versus a covered stent.
Part of it, I think, also is dependent on what you think caused that occlusion and caused that those areas of fracture. If the fracture was just in the Hunter's Canal, where you get a lot of torsion forces, then I think either a covered stent or a Supera would be great. If it's heavily calcified and you think that's part of the problem that led to the stent fracture, then that's where I really would favor using a Supera, because I don't think a covered stent's going to support that or hold that up as well.
Good thought.
But this looks like a pretty soft lesion, so probably either one of those would be useful, and the concern about perforation or aneurysmal formation would be handled well by a covered stent.
What do you think, Andre?
Andre, did you hear that? One of the questions about the potential use of a Supera, for example, as opposed to a covered stent. Was that a consideration?
Yeah, we could do this. I would be a little bit afraid. I mean, for Supera, I would definitely now first take big balloons in, 6 millimeter, and with this muddy material, I'm a little bit afraid that with all this aggressive ballooning, I may embolize here old stuff, old material, which I cannot lyse later on. So, therefore, I'm not sure.
Andre, this is Brian DeRobertis. How often do you use filters when you're going through occluded stents? Because even the Excite trial showed a fairly high rate of, can you hear us okay, or no?
No, I couldn't. There was some...
So I was just asking, how often do you use a filter when you're going through occluded stents? They tend to have a large thrombus burden and can embolize. Even in the Excite trial, we saw some of that. So can you comment on that, use of filters? Yeah.
Actually, we don't do this very frequently. I would say especially not in very freshly occluded stents, because very often we see thrombotic material which we have to lyse anyway. So therefore, we don't take filters. But yes, sometimes, of course, I mean, if you have some contraindication for thrombolysis, then clearly I would, in such a situation, use a filter.
So what are you placing here, Andre?
So we don't want to cover here the collateral. Sorry?
What device are you placing now?
Yeah, so this is now a Covera, the new covered stent on a life stent platform, the Covera Plus. Yeah, this is a 6 diameter 600, and well, it takes 8 French. It needs 8 French, but we had to use 8 French anyway for that big laser, the 2.5. So that fits together. Maybe we take the roadmap out. What do you think?
Willst du noch mal gucken?
Yeah. Okay. So,
Aus?
oder? Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. Okay. So we don't want to cover here the collateral. Just a little bit across. Oops.
Großer Haken.
Yeah. That old stent. Potentially, we also take a drug-coated balloon across that distal area. I think there was still some disease. I'm not sure whether this is enough. I think we need another stent, because here we had this strange area of maybe perforation of the artery.
So, Andre, this is a life stent platform with PTFE coating?
Yes. Yes, correct, yeah. So there's one for hemodialysis shunts, and this one is actually for dialysis shunts, but also for atherosclerotic, iliac, and femoral disease. And in fact, yeah, so this is, some actually use it for stent grafts, but this is clearly off-label. Yeah, what do you think? I would take another shorter one, proximal up to the collateral.
80, ja?
80?
80, okay.
Oder 60? 60? 80. Yeah. And then we take drug-coated balloons. We choose here Stellarex balloons for the distal and proximal end. Yeah, I'm happy now already with this result. Really don't want to see this old material here embolize into the tibial arteries. What do you think? So we want to preserve, of course, this collateral now?
I think it looks real good so far. I like your strategy. How much do you overlap these covered stents in this region? Now, if it's aneurysmal disease, we overlap a lot, but how much do you overlap here in this territory with a covered stent?
Yeah. Well, in Viabands, of course, I would overlap a lot to prevent any bleeding out of the overlap. But here, I don't think it's very necessary to overlap a lot. We may, however, have to, because actually I would take here now a 660 in, but now we have a 680 available. Let's see. Oh, that's perfect. Let's do it like this, huh?
Yeah.
Svenny, like this?
Yeah, perfect.
You do it. Okay. And Stellarex 640, 660 und 680, 600. Shall I take roadmap out or?
So, oder?
Yeah, perfect. A little bit of friction. What do you think, Svenny?
Ja.
Maybe due to the crossover approach.
Maybe stick
over an 018 wire.
Yeah.
You should actually use it over an 035.
But it's not too
Is this an
bad.
035 device or an 018 device? What wire does this go over?
Yeah, this is an 035-inch device, but we have for the laser, we took an 018 in to be able to flash a lot of water through the laser while lasering. Yeah, I think that's nice. We cover even the first rupture, the proximal rupture here of that stent. And we may give you already an angio, and the rest, of course, is easy to do. Just a moment. Yeah, that's nice. So collaterals nicely open, all perfect. Some air bubbles.
Sorry.
And yeah, we will continue now with drug-coated balloons. What do you think?
It's very
I
nice.
like that strategy.
Yep.
Interestingly, even your distal transition looks better than it did on the previous angiogram. Maybe you just got more contrast, but with the better better flow.
Maybe, yeah. Okay, I think, well, the rest is not very exciting. We can do this now and maybe show you the result later. What do you think?
Yeah, that would be great, Andre. Very nicely done.
Yeah. Thank you.
Very nice case,
Very nice.
Andre.
Thank you. Celerex, nochmal?
6?
6.
All right, so I think
40,
we're
660,
going to
nochmal?
all right, so we're going to transition now
Ja, 640 schnell.
to PK.